I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and I want to thank all of our panelists and speakers for participating in this quarterly mini jam. These events have been wildly successful for us, helping to drive over 1 million subscribers to our YouTube channel. And of course, we are continuing to build the always-on community site at insidejam.com, where you can connect with experts like you'll see today, along with colleagues and peers, and continue the conversation around enterprise technology. If you haven't already joined insidejam.com, please do. And if you have, please invite a colleague to join as well. Thank you very much for being here, and enjoy this event.
Solutions Review presents Inside Jam, an enterprise technology community.
Hello and welcome back to the Q3 Mini Jam. My name is Jonathan Paula. I'm the Director of Multimedia and Events here at Solutions Review. Excited to have you back with us as we continue our exploration of the soft side of AI, education, empathy, and human readiness. And we continue that conversation with another expert panel. 6 people from around the world to talk about human readiness, preparing people for an AI-augmented future. Should be a great discussion. Let's bring them all in right now. Sonia, Lori, Matt, Nandan, Peter, and Samir, thank you one and all for being here. Appreciate your time in advance. Let's kick things off with some introductions. Sonia, you've agreed to moderate, so let's have you go first. 30 seconds or so. Tell the audience a bit about yourself.
Sure. So hello, everyone. My name is Sonia Khan. I am a labor economist. For the past 20 years, I've been helping organizations reimagine work through technology. Long before AI, I was focused on automating routine tasks to unlock human creativity and redesign jobs around uniquely human skills. I was a chief economist at an AI company where I led the company's research arm. And now I am a partner at an AI company named Gitforce, and we are guiding organizations to integrate AI and AI agents in ways that enhance rather than replace human potential. And I will pass on the mic to Lori.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lori Kier. I am the CEO and founder of Innovative Connections. We are a consulting company, about 25 strong, that works with organizations to really expand organizational effectiveness, primarily on the human side. So we do a lot of work with leadership development, executive coaching, change management, culture and strategy work in the partnership between the two, organizational redesign, just a lot of the pieces that fall in line with how we make things like AI successful.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. Matt, let's go over to you next. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for your time and for tuning in and listening to all of us chat about the present and near future of AI adoption. It was really an honor to be with you all. My name's Matt Lewis. I've been in emerging technology commercialization and artificial intelligence for 28 years, and on the emerging technology side and AI for about 20 years or so. Now, I was the first chief AI officer for private equity consulting firm under Clayton, Dubilier, Rice for a number of years, and started Elemental. We're the first AI native holding company. I'm CEO of Transformental. We're focused on successful AI adoption in the modern AI era, the fourth industrial revolution.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. Let's go to Nandan next. Welcome. Welcome back, more importantly.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks for having me again. My name is Nandan Mulekara. I am the founder of What Nirvana. We provide services on agentic AI-led automation. I'm also the co-author of the best-selling book, Agentic Artificial Intelligence, and also robotic process automation projects. Previously, I was the head of automation at Fujitsu. And
Excellent.
Look forward to this discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, let's go to you next. Welcome.
Peter Reskilling, JLL Future Work Leader. I'm a former Accenture partner, PwC advisory partner. I support our Fortune 100 clients in terms of their future work journeys, including AI, work and workforce and workplace transformation. I serve on a couple boards, the Accenture Technology Vision Board and the World Economic Forum AI Governance Committee. And JLL is a $23 billion, 120,000 person firm. We focus on real estate, asset management, investment, and operational management. Great to be with everyone.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for being here. And last but not least, Samir, welcome back.
Hi there. Thank you for having me back. So my name's Samir Sharma. I'm the CEO of DataZoom. I've been in the data industry now for about 25 years. And what do? Well, we help organizations turn their data and AI initiatives into measurable business outcomes. So my work focuses on bridging the gap between technology and people. We do a ton of work around operating model and organization design. Strange for data folks, but that's what we do because we know that's where the problem exists. And we make sure that AI just doesn't exist in some cloud or in a model, but actually drives value for individuals, teams, and the organization as a whole. So that's me. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, everyone, for being here. Really appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to the discussion, but since I'm not qualified to have it myself, I will pass things over to the qualified experts here. Sonia, take it away.
Sure. So we can start with the first question, which is around AI readiness. When we talk about AI readiness for individuals and organizations, what does it really mean beyond the technical infrastructure of AI readiness? I'd love to start with Peter, and then I'd love to hear from Lori on this question.
Great, Sonia, glad to share some thoughts. So as we look at Fortune 100 clients at present, and as they're looking at AI enablement and AI readiness, we find that data and data integrity is one of the key priority areas. And most organizations have messy data. We're seeing a great deal of focus on data governance, data integrity, data harmonization. The second area where we're very focused these days with Fortune 50 organization is education and training, getting the workforce understanding even in terms of basic literacy around AI. And then the third area that I would mention would be operating model and operating model ecosystem partnerships. So I'm former Accenture and former PwC. Our firm JLL, we have partnerships with Microsoft, with PwC, with many of the large consultancies, as well as the major AI platforms. So it's a very different co-creation process today in terms of AI readiness than previous technological, transformational events. And it's requiring a much more partnerial approach with the individual employees, with the organizational units, with ecosystem partners. And then the last point I would make is that it's evolving so quickly, all of this needs to be evergreen and accelerated. So it's a tremendous opportunity and a tremendous challenge, and very excited to contribute more thoughts today on this panel. Lori?
Yeah, thank you, Peter. I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what you said about evolving quickly, because one of the things that I find in our work when we look at leadership development and people development is that we have a large percentage of the population that operates at a different level of adult development. So from a psychological lens, we tend to look at stages of adult development. The majority of our population, including our leaders, operate at relatively low levels of development. They're looking at things through a very black and white lens. They don't have the ability to really think more systematically. So one of the things I think we need to do to ready people is to help them advance their own level of development so that they can think more broadly, so that they can see things at a bigger level, that we can manage polarities and complexities in new ways. If we don't do that, then we're going to continue to run up against roadblocks with not only implementation, but with just people not feeling afraid of the technology and where we're at. And then that would lead me to maybe my second point, which is kind of around the psychology of it. There's a lot of fear that people experience. There's a lot of data out there around how many jobs are going to be lost, by when, and it really does put people in a state of fear. And if we want to have higher levels of adoption, we've got to be able to minimize the fear. Part of that means helping people redefine their identity. Our identity is very much linked in our work. And so all of those people aspects feel like they're areas that I get a chance to participate in from the readiness side of AI.
I'll just piggyback on that really quickly, Lori, especially on your first point, where I think now is the time where leaders have to get out, stay curious, ask a million questions. I think JP Morgan just had a report that came out last week that said that jobs are being disrupted now, but growth and opportunity is really lying ahead for those who adopt. And so if leaders don't have an accurate read on what's changing in the real world, then they risk by staying stagnant. And I think it's all about exposure, unlocking learning, and that's how readiness kind of turns into capability.
Absolutely. Change leadership.
Yep, absolutely. So the next question here is on AI literacy. So what do you think it means to be AI literate in practical terms, and how can we make sure that this literacy is accessible to all and not just the few technical elite? I think based on Nandan and Samir's background, I'd like to start with you two.
Practical AI literacy is really understanding, what AI can and cannot do. How does it make decisions? Where does the bias live, and how does it impact somebody's role? So it's more about actually being curious and really get into the fabric of why does this thing have to, why is it impacting me, and where do I sit in that? So I think it's about for leaders particularly. I think it's challenging assumptions and setting some of those ethical guardrails that we often talk about. So I think it's plain language learning for a lot of people in their roles. And it's got to be, look, it's moving so fast, right? So we can't have these types of elitist boot camps or, whatever that might, whatever sort of training that might exist. For the chosen few. I think it's got to be modular type of training embedded specifically into workflows as people are doing their work and experiencing it and understanding it. So I think those are the types of things that, from my perspective and what I've seen, just being practical and accessible, for a lot of people. And I wouldn't say that AI literacy is about writing, Python. It really is about asking better questions. So I'll leave on that and I'll pass that to Nandan.
Yeah, thank you, Samir. And, we are practical, accessible, and being curious, right? And I want to piggyback on that and, add a framework that I follow. So I've been in automation, AI-led automation for quite some time, and I've seen how we can bring in both the technical folks as well as the business folks into this AI field, right? And the first thing is, I think, to get them interested in this whole thing. So I have this, what is called as a 5E framework. So I'll start with the first, which is educate. So what we want to show them is how AI is capable. You want to show them the use cases and how they can benefit from it. Once they understand what it can do, then what we want to do is not an elitist training, like Samir said, but you want to empower them. That's my second E. So you want to provide the support that they need so that they can start working with AI. Then we want to provide them the environment, so which is enable them to create space for experimentation. Because earlier we had this whole thing of doing a theory and then a practical. Now you can actually start experimenting, open ChatGPT and start experimenting with, or a Copilot. Fourth is to engage with them. You should always be addressing their concerns, their problems. And then finally, you want to execute and implement a clear adoption strategy for AI, because adoption is the key. You don't want to throw these licenses like Copilot licenses and all these tools at them, but you want to and try and force some top-down adoption, but and also assume that they'll figure it out. But focus on getting them to adopt it using this 5E framework.
Great. Matt, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think that's brilliant, both what Samir said and what Nandan said. And I think just building on what Laurie mentioned earlier, the psychology of artificial intelligence adoption in the modern environment is critical. It's not like cloud, it's not like blockchain, it's not like, the dot-com era. For some of us are old enough to remember that 26 years ago. The psychology of how people show up in the enterprise today, it is probably like the Pareto principle. It's like 80% of what matters. So they're just kind of like, bookend what Nandan said. Like there's the first piece really, like the baseline is really more about empathizing to edit E to his framework and like really showing up for the leader, for the C-suite, for the investor, for the board, for the directors, for the division heads, and for the frontline workers and customers, clients, people on the front lines that are truly suffering and traumatized by AI and are telling I'm sure all of you watching, listening, that they're scared that robots are going to take their job. This is what we hear, 9 every 10 hours every day. But they're terrified that AI is going to replace them as humans. So the first thing is not so much like the old Gartner digital dexterity considerations of giving people knowledge that they can't use. It's really showing up for them as people and saying, hey, we get it. We understand what you're worried about. And there's going to be a brighter day. Like tomorrow will be better than today. And if we go through the framework that Nandan explicated, there's hope on the other side. The other side is that the company will thrive, the people in the business will do better. And on the other side, when transformation is successful, then, to add a seventh E, perhaps, everyone is enabled. They're able to be amplified, extended, and progress forward to a version of the business that isn't possible today. And like that really is critical, because if you don't show them why they're investing all this time and money and effort, it's just a lot of, resources expended against the wall that never sticks.
I wonder if I can expand on that just a little bit, because I think the points made are just so fabulous. When we work with change leadership, Nandan, your model of the 5 E's is such a great method of change leadership to simplify the complex. And Matt, when you were talking, I was thinking about just, we spend a lot of time educating around the specifics of AI, how it might impact their job, what they need to know. But if we don't start to help people navigate change better, just overall, a lot of times we'll show a graphic where we talk about the rate of change just accelerating on this exponential curve, but our psychological capacity to navigate change has not improved very much. So if we don't start to close that gap psychologically, then no one's going to actually be able to step into any of those pieces. So we'll just kind of piggyback there on some of the comments that the others have made.
It's a great point. I think, this is another one of those challenges from leading change across the enterprise over the last 25 years that all of us have been involved in, that the pace itself of change has increased, not independent of AI. Change itself is so much faster now than when I started at Procter & Gamble in 1998. Like the pace of change is so fast now that the old models of change management, like I'm sure some of us are familiar with ProSci or the rest, it just doesn't work in 2025 for the common environment. So in order to change, it really requires a completely different way of thinking for leadership, for the enterprise, that isn't fit for purpose. So when you juxtapose the change management approach with the modernity of AI transformation, it's just like, adding fuel to the fire. So you really need this kind of broader aperture to look back and say, where are we? Where do we want to go? How do we help the humans of the environment progress to their best selves? And I think that's really what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Great perspective all around. Just one more thing to add. As a labor economist, we often talk about AI's productivity and how they potentially won't just benefit everyone. And so to get back to the question, if literacy is only concentrated in that tech elite, will be deepening inequality across the board, across the world. And so I think one of the things that I'm doing at my company here is focusing on literacy from the ground up and making sure that the people that are closest to the customer on the ground, not just those on the boardroom, know how to work with AI as a partner. And like Lori mentioned, it's a division of AI and human work, and what's that partnership looking like? And it comes down to really focusing on skills and tasks and what's changing. And it's not just an overall blanket of if AI is going to take my job over, but really, how is my job going to be augmented? I think Samir has one more point to make, and then we can move on to the next question.
Thank you so much, Sanya. Yeah, so I think there's absolutely amazing points. I think I was just going back to something that Peter mentioned earlier, which is we've got to, if we cast our minds back to things like digital literacy, what did we do in those moments for people to understand what's, coming at them? I think government, industry, and overall education played quite a big role in that. So I think we've got to think about how do those three areas come together, and how do we lean into that to say, look, we've got this, for some people it's an impending crisis, right? So we've got to really think about how we're going to bring people into this, this bubble that, we're in right now, and how are they going to be comfortable? How are they going to feel that their jobs are going to be, retained, but they're also going to have to adapt and pivot somehow. So I think that whole ecosystem, going back to what Peter mentioned about ecosystems, has to really be there as well to support this, this impact, this quite, sort of volley of AI fear mongering and so on. So I think, we've got to have those pillars in place. That's just my last comment.
Sure. Thank you. Great perspectives all around, which kind of leads us to AI literacy, to reskilling. So how do we reskill and upskill workers fast enough to keep pace with AI disruption? It's moving, like Lori mentioned, at a pace of change that we've never seen before. We don't want to leave these vulnerable groups behind. Like I mentioned, it could potentially increase inequality. I'd love to hear from Peter and Lori on this one.
Yes,
Can I
thank
start,
you.
Peter?
You want to go first, or I'll go?
No, you go.
Okay, well, I'll just add a couple of good thoughts. I use myself as an example. I reskill and upskill myself every 18 months to 2 years over the last 25 plus years. And I download 80 to 100 white papers a week. I'm constantly questioning, am I adding value? What do I need to learn today? What do I need to learn this week? So this obligation for self-learning and self-actualization is a core tenet to human readiness in the age of anxiety and the age of AI. And so I think there's an individual enablement and responsibility that we all need to take, we all need to nurture. And then from a corporate organizational perspective, we need to make it outcome-based, modular, fun, interesting, communal. I love learning, and I'm not threatened by AI. I've been on the AI journey for 20 plus years, and I think we need to look at it as a symbiosis and a partnership with new robotic, machine colleagues. And then those colleagues and ecosystems will grow with alliance partnerships and more upskilling and reskilling. And this is sort of the new normal. So I think it's a very co-creative journey. And thanks, Samir, for your acknowledgement of ecosystem partnerships. I don't think anyone can do it alone. I think organizations need to partner, and we as individuals need to learn from one another to enable our upskilling and to enable our cohorts and colleagues to upskill and become smarter, better, more fulfilling professionals. So those are some thoughts, and glad to hear more thoughts from you, Lori, as well.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm going to piggyback a little bit on the statement you made around self-actualization, because that is so much the work that we do around helping people, again, move up that ladder of adult vertical development. Samir, you made a great comment about how do we ask better questions? How do we step in through curiosity? Those are not skills that come naturally to us. We oftentimes in a variety of professions get ahead by knowing, having all the answers. And we are operating in a world where no one person has all the answers. And sometimes a single person has none of the answers. So we've got to start to figure out, how do we self-actualize, Peter, to the words that you used, in a way that we can hold that ambiguity. So in order to kind of move forward. The other thing I would add here is I think there's a people piece to this, which is how do we really equip people with the right skills, both from an AI technical spot and kind of some of those more soft skills. I feel like there's also a structure element, and organizations don't always get the structure element right. So how are we looking at workforce planning from the HR side? Are we really taking a look at how our jobs are going to change and what that means for our selection and recruitment of talent? What do roles look like differently as we go into the future? So what does that workforce planning need to look like? Because then we can develop strategies around training and leadership development that support that. The other thing I'll just add to kind of finalize this is emotional intelligence, change leadership. I've talked about some of those things already. We have seen our coaching business skyrocket in the last couple of years. And I think that's because leaders need help navigating all of the complexity of the place that they're in. They need help with imposter syndrome. They need help with the ambiguity. They need help with the complexity. How do I step in into these environments where I don't have, like I said, I don't have all the answers. So seeking out some of those support resources. Peter made a great point about just constantly being that self-learner, critical to upskilling.
Yeah, and if I could add one more point, Lori, to your good comments, knowledge is dying, and we're entering the age of wisdom work. For those of us who use our wisdom every day as much as we can, it's a different way of working, and it's not relying on memory. It's not relying on knowledge. It's relying on emotional intelligence and wisdom. And that's a very new way of working for many of us. So couldn't agree more with your comments.
Peter, I wish I could just hug you right now. I love that statement. We're wisdom workers. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great perspectives all around. Peter and Lori, I'm blown away because I agree with everything that you both just said. I have two thoughts just coming to mind. One is regarding the workforce HR perspective on this, so workforce planning perspective on this. And really it's the way that I see it, and I'd love to hear everyone's opinion on this too, is do you think that as people's tasks change, and they get augmented with AI, they'll have to learn new skills, right? So they'll have to upskill and reskill to work with the new AI systems or the new AI agents. And what does that really entail? That means that they won't be the specific knowledge worker anymore. They'll have to jump from perhaps one department to another department to another department. And I'd love Peter's opinion on this because you worked in consulting. But the way that I see it in the future is that everyone is going to be an employee, and it's going to be a consulting type of world where you jump from project to project instead of, being siloed into a department. That's one thought that I have.
Yes. We would agree very much. We've been focused on the liquid workforce and liquid work for 25 years.
Yeah.
And so the liquid workforce is highly fluid and agile. So I report to 25 folks and I report to no one. My day-to-day is self-actualized and self-managed. Orchestrating that across AI ecosystems and other colleagues that's fluid. My job title has changed every 18 months. And I don't even know, I have a job title right now, but it's changing as we speak. So being very comfortable with that discomfort of no security, no foundational elements as we've known them historically, and to be courageous and to embrace the uncertainty, the ambiguity, and the complexity. That requires a new levels of emotional intelligence. And I'll go so far, it takes a bit of spiritual courage every day to believe in yourself and to believe in a future that you're not quite certain what it may all be about.
If I could just add one area, I love that idea of wisdom workers, but it also scares the living, out of me, because, not everybody's going to be able to learn at the pace that we're going at now. And that's the challenge that we have in many organizations. If you think about what wisdom workers are, to your point, Peter, you're leveraging your experience, you're leveraging your critical thinking over a certain, period of time. You're able to connect dots, across strategy, operations and the way that humans behave. So not everybody's going to be able to do that. And I think that's highly important to understand. Those people who are going to be living in fear, are going to be, who may have never been an information worker or, any form of that sort of role. That's where the challenge will be. And I think that's where we really have to give them, the accessibility and that courage to really say, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I need to embrace it. And so wisdom workers is a great way to look at it. But I think probably there's a small percentage of wisdom workers, and the rest are going to have to really be upskilled quite quickly. And that's the really scary bit.
If just one quick comment, I think the trajectory, we may have more time on this trajectory than everyone's anticipated we have. And I do think we need to fill in the gaps, Samir. Couldn't agree more. But that's where nurturing, mentoring, universal basic income, I don't know, it's going to take a host of interventions. So I'll let others opine as well.
If I may,
Yeah, please.
if it's okay. None of us have a crystal ball. My 10-year-old daughter Isabel will say that I have one that's in my office from a company I used to advise, but it doesn't work very well, to tell you the truth. But I think we don't know what the horizon looks like, but I think it's clear that generative AI at least is catalyzing massive global scale change across all verticals, all enterprises, all governments, all of humanity. Whether it changes, life as we know it in 3 years or 30 years is kind of up for discussion. But I think to kind of think about the query that Sonia raised a few minutes ago, how our work will have to change or must change. I think the other side is probably more the case for the actual worker, the person that's, on the front line, seeing customers, that's doing clerical work, that's, seeing, the factory floor, that's, that where a lot of us started 25, 30 years ago, that's starting in consulting as an analyst, for example. Like most people's jobs, their daily work experience is not that glorious. And when you think about the idea of robots taking your jobs, most people would be happy to give their jobs up to a robot. They don't really like their work. Most actual people in the Western world, in Europe, in the US, and other worlds aren't thrilled to go to work every day and do the jobs that they're doing. So, the idea of generative AI transforming the workplace and letting people do their best work and live their best lives should be a destination, not something that they dread. So the idea of like shedding the past and looking to the future where we can build the architecture for what follows in the 2030s as we think about the modern infrastructure that follows is something that we should be looking to leaders and to the organizations that we work with as something that we can help them envision. And, you know, to Peter's point, like there isn't one fixed future. There's a multiplicity of possibilities that we can help leaders consider that they want to walk down. It could be path A or path Z or path C or path G, but we have to help them think about what resources and constraints and considerations that they want to consider in order to make what's best for their organization. And I think it is really important affectively and experientially to help leaders and division heads and workers and others think through and feel through how their work and how their days will be different in 2030 versus how they were in 2010 when they may have started, or in 2040 when they retired. Because I can tell you from the people I know that have been using AI for 2 years or 20 years, their daily experience is significantly better emotionally than it was when they first started. They like their work much better. They like when they go home, they see their partner, they see their children, they walk their dog. They're happier people than when they were pre-automation, pre-AI. And this is a goal that matters for society.
There's a statistic I just read last week, and it said something about 95% of investments in AI are not yielding results. Oftentimes because they come with a lot of autonomy, a lot of independence. There's not the right structures in place to potentially Samir manage the majority of the population that you've just spoken to. So I think as leaders, how do we empower, which is what we want to do, but also have the right boundaries and structures in place so that people can be successful?
Yep.
Great perspectives all around. Lori, just to mention, I think the study that you're citing is from MIT, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Just a tidbit from my economist background, the sample size was very small on that. A biased study. So I'm just going to point that out. But agree on all of the points. Entry-level jobs are disappearing due to automation. And I think as AI takes the repetitive tasks away from people's plate, which is great, humans have to get the investment from their leaders to grow into the roles that matter most and really grow into the future roles that we just don't even know what they will look like today. So on that note, we'll move on to the next question, which is around cultural and organizational shifts. Specifically, what cultural changes inside organizations are most critical to ensure that people feel safe, supported, empowered as AI reshapes roles and workflows? And something that I'd like to point out or ask you all about is the entry-level jobs that are going away, whether it's in consulting, at law firms, in finance, in the finance industry as a whole as well. If young folks don't get that mundane grunt work experience, how are they going to know how to do the real work or how the work gets done if they've never had the experience on the ground? And what does the future look like when you have AI doing all of that work? So for that one, I'd like to start off with Nandan and then Matt.
All right, Sanya, thank you. So, I think it's a mistake that people are, stopping hiring the entry-level workers because we are losing the foundations later in the future, right? So I think what we need is to understand what is that future looking like, and enable all the people, including junior people, to embrace AI. And I came across a case study which basically shows how you can do this thing. And that was interesting that this bank out of Norway, it is a Norwegian bank. It basically saved around 213,000 hours by using AI. And the first thing they start with was the culture, to your point of question about culture. And, we want people to feel safe, supported, empowered, and also challenged. So that's the most interesting piece, which I read in that case study, was that what the CEO did was he made it a mandate. So I think the AI enablement should come from the top. The top should lead by example, And also they are also challenging the people to embrace AI. So what he did was that if you don't adopt AI, you don't get a promotion. Okay, so he was creating the environment and also challenging them. And also he created the urgency and accountability to bring in AI. So what happened was that the resistance was decreased, and people started embracing the AI that was in the organization. So one of the key problems that all the organizations face is the adoption of this whole thing. So I know a lot of customers where the GitHub, not the GitHub Copilot, the Microsoft 365 Copilot, the organization is paying for it, and then people are asking, what do I use this for? And then they are, looking to do some few examples that they know of, and I can see from what they're using they're just using 10% of that capability. So the framework that I was saying earlier of we need to basically educate and empower these people. So first you need to educate, show them the use cases, empower them, and then like the CEO is doing, mandate it from the top, give a top direction, as well as give that encouragement, the challenge to adopt it. And I think doing that culture molds to an AI-led future where it's actually, like you guys mentioned, it's past knowledge to wisdom work. Now, what does wisdom work entail, right? So one thing I'm seeing is that the whole work in an AI era, the agentic era, is about orchestration, like what Peter mentioned. So what he does in his role is more of an orchestration. So tomorrow you're orchestrating not just people, but also orchestrating agents, machine partners, you name it, everyone, right? So it's a complete orchestration network that you're building, and how you enable or how you supervise that orchestration is going to be key for the future. So I think developing that skill and the giving that environment for people to fit in is what is crucial for the culture change.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to jump to Matt's perspective on this as well.
Yeah, sometimes when you do these panels or these presentations, you sometimes wonder if like the other speakers listening to your thoughts, like as you're talking, because I was going to say almost the exact same thing that Nandan said. We went through almost this exact experience in my previous firm with helping to explicate leaders' personal and professional experiences with generative AI adoption so that their directs in the broader organization could transparently understand the struggles and the successes they had, and really kind of see firsthand why it mattered so much that efficiency of engagement also mattered for them. But I think the way that Nandan explained it was really brilliant. The other thing I would say that I think is really important is that all organizations, like, our company, we're a public benefit corporation, so we have equal consideration for both profit and for the public good. But some organizations only care about shareholder value. Some organizations are not for profit. Some are government, all sorts. Like, we don't judge, only God can judge. But look, like, if you have to maximize the value for the stakeholders of the organization, like these entry-level roles, if you will, are not sacrosanct. They've only existed in modern era for 60 years, for 3 generations. If they're not adding maximal value to the organization, they should be shed. And you have to also think, like, in the last 20, 30 years, the experiential and affective considerations that exist in the academy, like in university setting, in colleges and other preparatory schools, has increased significantly. I work with a number of college students, with academic institutions, with university professors, with technology innovations, with IP, with tech transfer. What kids are doing now on college campuses and professors are doing blows my mind. Like, I couldn't even imagine doing these things when I was at Cornell in the late 90s. Like, it's really like an order of magnitude different. So when they enter the enterprise setting in 2026, what they're doing in college right now is what I would have done when I was entry level with Procter & Gamble when I was in my 20s. So it's not so much that the entry level role is going away. It's like evolved into the mid-level senior role that now people are doing when they're almost like leapfrogging what they did 30 years ago, because they're doing it all when they're in college using generative AI in the academy. So I think we just need to kind of shift our thinking about what's really changing. They're still doing the work, but they're doing it between 19 and 24 in the academy. And then they come into the enterprise, like really kind of with a jetpack on, which is generative AI. And they're able to kind of like move forward much faster than we could have done when we were, their age, because of the newer technology. And then, I think the other thing that's an open secret in consulting that all of us know is that when you look into the early 2030s, most major organizations will be a different structure and a much smaller version of themselves. Like, everyone knows this. It's in all the white papers. Like, the government talks about it, the World Economic Forum talks about it. I'm faculty for WEF. It's a common consideration that, by 2036, most organizations will be 10, 15, 20% smaller than they are now with a different org chart. So we have to start talking transparently with leadership and with the people with whom we engage, that not everyone, when the music ends, will still have a chair at the table. Some people will have gone out and started their own companies. Some people will go back to teaching. Some people will start their own businesses. Some people will be on the beach, so to speak, using alternative income. But we need to think broadly about what's going to change in the economy and start preparing for the future, not just like imagining that this status quo version that's existed for the last 20 years will somehow in perpetuity still exist, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So many interesting points here. I just have to add, Matt, I spent all of last year, I quit my corporate full-time job, and I wanted to find a solution for how can we not have to have, how can we prevent like mass unemployment and, AI replacing people when CEOs, make that cut of large blanket layoffs. And I thought that maybe it's giving leaders the opportunity to find out how to reskill and upskill each worker. So as some tasks get moved away, you reskill them to a part of the business that's innovating. And what I found as I was going out with this idea to consult companies is that it's shareholder value. It doesn't increase profits. It doesn't decrease revenue. And so they're not interested in it right now. I just wanted to mention that because it's like a problem that I'm foreseeing here. But on that note, I'd love to move on to the next question, which will also be a little bit of what are your last pieces of advice as we kind of wrap up in this area of human skills for the AI era. So which centered skills like adaptability, critical thinking, empathy will be most important to cultivate in an AI-augmented future? And I will love to start with Samir and then Peter.
I just realized I was on mute, did the COVID thing. So I think all of those matter, quite frankly, what you've just mentioned. Adaptability is huge. It goes back to something that I think Peter mentioned. His journey. He's having to reframe his work and learn continuously. So I think a lot of people are going to have to do that on a daily basis. I've certainly been doing it. Just in the last 2 or 3 years on how Gen AI has disrupted the way that we work. But I think that's one of the it's the skill that allows us humans to basically stay relevant alongside AI. I think there's one thing that I'd also add. I mean, absolutely, critical thinking is absolutely key. Questioning outputs, validating assumptions, and then also making those kind of decisions responsibly. But I also think that we have the ability to see that bigger picture, so that sort of systemic thinking that humans are very good at doing, and understanding that the broader systemic consequences of what we're currently in, how we integrate, from an ethical, a social, and all the business implications into what we're kind of doing on a daily basis through our decisions. So I think I would advocate for that side as well. So that's really important from where I see it. And I think if you think about just sort of picking that up to that sort of seeing the bigger picture level, I think it encourages people to really look beyond those immediate outputs, and it sort of helps them to look at the outcomes and those ripple effects down the road, because I think that's what we need to think about as well. Absolutely sharpening those those areas around adaptability and critical thinking, and of course empathy. But I think systemic thinking is something that we probably also need to lean in as well.
Yeah, Samir, thank you. I would agree with all of your good comments. And I would just build on, I think, adaptive leadership and having leadership models that are highly fluid and agile. And then I fully agree with your systems thinking and sort of metacognition, having AI discernment and good judgment. And to be a good wisdom worker, it takes wisdom and judgment and discernment. And then finally, I would add spiritual, emotional balance and resilience and psychological resilience, because it's a very challenging time for all the good comments that were made. And it requires almost an emotional, psychological, spiritual level of self-compassion, humility, and engagement to navigate all of the ambiguity, complexity, and uncertainty that we're all facing. But I think collectively, if we do it together, hopefully we'll see some good outcomes per the great comments from Matt and others, Samir, on this call.
Okay, I would love to just get some closing remarks. I'll start with Lori.
Thank you. I have learned a lot just by being in your all's presence. So I'm just grateful for that, and thank you. If I were to give any advice, it would be just to keep in mind all of these pieces that we've talked about. Don't forget the people skills. Don't forget the culture changes that need to be made, and then put the structures in place to support that. And org structures need to change. We need to develop and continue to develop in ways that just deepen our ability to manage all of the ambiguity that we're experiencing. So those would be my final comments.
Perfect. I'd love to move over to Matt.
Yeah, and this has been a really wonderful session. Thank you to everyone here for your candor and consideration, and they're just learning together. It's really a wonderful opportunity. I would say that, AI in general and generative AI specifically is probably the most practical, the most pragmatic of all human innovations ever in the human history. And this truly is the best time to be human on planet Earth. And what we're experiencing right now is kind of like the growing pains of getting from where we've been to where we need to be. And it's going to be messy over the next couple of years. But like when we get through the other side, it's going to be brilliant. Just hang in there.
Great points. I'd love to move to Nandan.
Thank you, Sanya. So great points. Great to be part of this panel. I think we've been focusing a lot on the human aspects, and I think that's really needed in this new world. And also, I think we also should focus on some of the core hard skills. Let's not forget that, a bit of a contrarian take. So we're going to see a lot of new jobs appear as per World Economic Forum, around 170 million new jobs, whereas many of the jobs will also get displaced. So it basically means that, like someone said on the panel, I think Peter, is that there will be this organization reduction. So we need to see what skills are coming up. So what skills I see coming up, working in this field of AI, working in the field of agents, is two main areas. And I want to leave with that. One is that I'm finding that there's a lot of leadership skills that's required. And I think that, just like I mentioned before, it's all about orchestration between people, machines, and everything around, with partners and everything within the organization, outside the organization. So being a leader, having that ability to coordinate all these things, orchestrate all these things, is very much needed. And so, you're seeing a lot of these roles like chief AI officer, head of AI, and all those things, AI ethicist, AI risk and governance, and so many of such roles come in. So the leadership skills is one core area which I'm seeing develop, and the other area which is technical, which is like having a technical literacy for most of the business people, as well as core AI, like an AI architect or a model manager, or like cyber security. Those are jobs that's really coming up. So I would say focus on the core skills and keep your human skills. So again, thank you.
Great. I'll move on to Nandan.
That's me.
Oh, sorry, Samir.
Thanks, Sonia. So I think I'll just final advice. And look, it's been a great panel. I've really, really enjoyed. I've learned so much in these last 15 minutes. So it's been fantastic. And thank you so much to everybody. So 3 things from me. One is, simple, invest in human skills now. Treat AI as a partner, not as a replacement. I think we keep, kind of getting het up on that. Create cultures of trust and learning. I think that's really important for people to be, feel empowered and to experiment and to also raise their concerns. Oh, actually, and my final point, sorry, 4. It goes back to what I just remembered. I think the other thing is that thinking long-term, systemically. I think we've really got to put that into our DNA and be able to look beyond those immediate outputs from AI. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samir. And lastly, Peter.
I'll just close out on 2 key takeaways. Build great relationships. Focus on your human and your machine relationships. And then the second thing I'll leave with is take care of ourselves and our families and integrative wellness, well-being, and health. And, health is our wealth. So in this age of, human readiness and AI enablement and all the great things that are coming, we do need to take care of our core health and well-being.
Great advice all around. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to moderate. One thing that I noticed that wasn't mentioned is something very practical. I think a framework of understanding what tasks do you do as an individual at work? How are those being replaced? What AI tools are coming to replace some of those tasks, and getting up to speed on them will make you not just a better employee, but stand out when you are applying for jobs for in the future. And just understanding, like taking your job to the next level. So once you know how to use that AI tool, what does that mean? How do you do the next level of tasks is my piece of advice. And then just wanted to say thank you all, and I will pass on the mic to Jonathan.
Excellent. Good job, everyone. That was an awesome conversation to listen in on for the last 50 minutes or so. But before we go, I would love to invite each of you an opportunity to provide some self-promotion, whether you'd like to plug your book, your podcast, your company solution, LinkedIn profile, whatever it is. We'll go counterclockwise and start with Samir.
I run the Data Strategy Show. You can listen to my podcast on all platforms, Spotify, Google, Amazon, etc. So catch me there, or LinkedIn. Thanks.
Awesome. Short and sweet. Appreciate that. Peter, 30 seconds or less.
Peter Miskowitz, JLL. We publish research every 2 weeks, 30 days on JLL.com. Also the World Economic Forum, similar to Matt, I'm an advisor there. And the WEF AI governance research, as well as skills for the future, we'd highly recommend to everyone.
Awesome. Appreciate you coming on. Nanda, over to you. Where would you like to send the audience?
Thank you, Jonathan. So if you want to build outcomes with AI agents fast, reach out to me. I keep sharing things on LinkedIn. We combine proven AI agents, team of AI agents for solving document-heavy processes at this point of time, which is basically unstructured data. We think this new AI is a lot about unstructured data. We are looking to solve this unstructured data, which is like 80% of the data problem for everyone. So thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for coming on the show. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm CEO of Transfermental. We're solving the adoption problem in modern AI. If you're a leader of an enterprise and you've been trying to augment your workforce and use AI to do it and it is not working, we kind of exercise the demons and ensure that it does work. So you can add value to your coworkers, your colleagues, your board, your C-suite, and find value on the other end. Happy to be in that conversation. We're at transfermental.ai is our website, or I'm at matt.lewis@transfermental.ai.
I would just encourage everybody, please to take a moment to follow me. I would love to just be in connection with you all. We talked a lot about a lot of issues today, and it's definitely a complex world. So if you want leadership development, if you need executive coaching, our firm provides a lot of those services. So we would love to support you in however you need.
Been so quick with these responses. I love that. Sonia, close us out.
Sure. Yes. I am head of AI strategy and growth at GitForce AI. We help to integrate AI and AI agents, specifically custom to small to medium-sized businesses. So if you are a small to medium-sized business and you care about the human element and incorporating AI plus humans in the best, most collaborative way possible, reach out to me.
Excellent. Thank you very much, one and all, for your time and for your expertise over the last hour. As for our audience watching live or on recording, if you'd like to dive deeper into this topic and learn more about enterprise technology, we encourage you to visit our growing community at insightjam.com, an always-on destination for all your technology needs and research. Or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already for weekly podcasts, panel highlights, expert advice, live programming, and a whole lot more Over 1 million people have already subbed, and we hope you can join them. We'll be back in just a few short minutes for our next event as the Q3 Mini Jam rolls on, with John Santaferraro doing an expert keynote on human strengths in the AI era. You don't want to miss that, but for now, for us, thank you as always for watching and listening. My name is John. We hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.
For video highlights, replays, and more, visit insightjam.com.